Today I would like to talk to you about the first PU English syllabus. So I think you are all fine with a long gap of English classes. And also, I think you're all, healthy, strong enough, even during this pandemic period. So I hope you are doing well. So myself, Davanagere, MH, a lecturer in English, dealing with the subject. I am beginning a first lesson of your syllabus, that is the gentleman of the jungle. You have the here, the gentleman of the jungle. This is the first lesson that is prescribed to you. Before we move on to the lesson, it is a duty for us to know about the writer, and written by Jomo Kenyatta. So here, since he is a Kikuyu, Negro, so their native, according to their native pronunciation, it is Jomo Kenyatta. So like this we pronounce Joe Kenyatta. And he was born in the year 1893 and died in the year 1978 as the Prime Minister or President of Kenya. He was an African political writer, and the first Prime Minister and the President of Kenya during the reign of 1964 to 1978. And he was a Prime Minister 1963 to 1964. Prime Minister, and here it is. Here, President of Kenya, and here he became the Prime Minister. And as an African political leader, he belongs to a Kikuyu, the community that we find especially in African countries, that is in Kenya. He was one of the earliest and best known African nationalist leaders. As secretary of his tribal association during the year 1928, he campaigned for land reform and African political rights. Yes, he was under his leadership. He conducted agitations, revolts, campaigns for the political, religious, social rights of the native people of Kenya, that is his African people. And not only that, Jomo Kenyatta is a writer, a social leader, a political leader, and as a writer, he has earned much fame and name from his the only famous book called Facing Mount Kenya. Okay, this is the famous book of Jomo Kenyatta. Here in this chapter, The Gentleman of the Jungle, we have the theme of greed, corruption, the control, the innocence, and the colonialism, trust, self-importance, and the rebellion. So these are the themes that we find when we start reading The Gentleman of the Jungle. So the time you finish reading The Gentleman of the Jungle, after understanding it, you will come to a conclusion that it deals with themes like injustice, like colonization, like greed, the base of power, and the rebellion. So that is what we will get to know about the lesson, The Gentleman of the Jungle here. And further, the narration of the story in this chapter, it is narrated in the third person by an unnamed person or a narrator, and the reader will realize after reading the story that the narrator is nothing but Jomo Kenyatta, the author himself, and maybe he wanted to explore the theme of greed among the people, exploiters. And I can call this as a satire, where you find so much of the use of sarcasm, the irony, and a satire. And you can also say that it is a fable also, by Kenyatta. Beautifully, very intelligently, he brought out the characters, interesting characters in the name of animals, and the characters in this story that we find here is, the first one is the man. The man, and it is the man versus animals of the kingdom, as it is presented in the story by Kenyatta. And here we find Mr. Elephant, Mr. Lion, Mr. Rhinoceros, Mr. Leopard, Mr. Fox, Mr. Buffalo, Mr. Hyena, and Mr. Alligator are the animals or the characters that we find in this story. And it is a story about the only man and all the animals in the forest. In the forest. So, but initially the conflict looks as if it is between the elephant and a man. Only man and an elephant. But as it proceeds, that the reader will discover that the whole conflict is between the man and all the animals in the forest or jungle here. So that is what we find, the themes, the plots, different plots that we hear. and the denouement that we find, the feeling of falling of action that we see here is from the beginning to the climax of the story, that the final outcome of the story is an action that is tragic. That is tragic. So it is a tragic story. And now we'll come to the lesson here. We'll see what exactly Kanata wants to explore or to address the people of Kenya, and he wanted to educate his people and create a kind of understanding in them about the very European expansion in their country, or European rule in their country here, and for which, dear students, you can look at the textbook, and the suggestion, the advice by pre-reading activity here is, you might have read the stories from Panchatantra and many other folk tales also, where you see good prevails over evil. Good prevails over evil. See here? Over evil. And that is the climax that we find. This is what we discover after reading the story here. And there is a suggestion from my side that you can read such stories in Panchatantra, in some of the folk tales, and even you will, when you read the stories of our own culture and anarchy, that you will find that the stories reveals or gives us the final theme that good prevails over evil as such. So in the same way, we have this concept at the end when we discover after reading the complete story here. And see, there is a source given in the textbook, and the picture is given here, a picture where an elephant is seated and all the animals are gathered to listen or to talk or to discuss something here under the leadership of Mr. Elephant here. That is what we discover from the picture that they have given here. And the source, the base, the actual incident, which is the main cause and reason to take up this in a subject in the title like The Gentleman of the Jungle by Omar Kanata here is this. In the late 19th century, the chief European powers divided Africa among themselves. Yes. When? Late 19th century. Yes. What the European powers did? They divided Africa among themselves as territories. As our India was divided by British into a different colonies, it is only that selfish nature of British in India to control and to grab the income and treat the Indians as slaves under their rule, the imperialistic rule that we find in India. In the same manner, the European people have invaded or made the countries of the Africa. Many countries of the African continent as their colonies. So there also we see the imperialistic rule by Europeans in countries like Nigeria, Kenya as such. So then they could do this because European area arms were superior and because the African chiefs did not understand the meaning of the treaties they were asked to sign. Yes, of course, the mighty power with the Europeans. Here it is, as I said, it is Europeans versus Africans. That is, of course, maybe Kenya. So that is what in reality the source for this, if you take, yes, this is what in reality here. And it is the power of Europeans that they are expelled with developmental arms and ammunitions which are very stronger, and even the knowledge of these native Kenyans is very poor to understand the terms and conditions of Europeans, and the very treaties that they make are confusing to the Africans, that they are not aware of these treaties, these pacts between Europeans and Kenyans, and that make Europeans exploit African people. And they prepared a different treaties, terms and conditions, and forced and asked the African or Kenyan people to sign them and act accordingly, according to the terms or the treaty that means the Kenyans signed and submitted to the Europeans here. Then, as a result, Africans lost the lands they had traditionally lived on and cultivated. Their attitude towards European expansion is made clear in the following fable, that is in The Gentleman of the Jungle, which reflects the attitude of the Kenya or the Kikuyu people of Kenya towards European laws and commissions. Yes. The original land, the original inhabitants of Kenya is the Kikuyu or the people of Kenya. And they lost their lands in which they had traditionally lived on and cultivated. They have lost their lands to these European exploiters. So, this is the actual incident or the source that we have to find out from this chapter, The Gentleman of the Jungle. And Jomo Kenyatta, interestingly, very intelligently, he takes up the characters of animals here and the man. And he leaves us to decide who is actually the gentleman of the jungle, whether it is man or the animals. So here, man is man is nothing but people of Kenya. Okay? Then the animals represent are nothing but the Europeans. Got it? So am I clear? Are you clear now? So it is actually the revolt, the war, the misunderstanding between the people of Kenya and the Europeans here. And we see how these Europeans exploit the very culture, tradition, and the social life, economical life, and political life of these native inhabitants, of the original inhabitants of Kenya here. So that is what we see in this story. And here Kenyatta has followed an interesting a step or a tool called the narration of this story. As I said, it is narrated in the third person narration, and he has not named the narrator here. And as you go on reading the lesson, you will find out maybe he is the author himself narrating the story. And students, open the textbook and page number 2. The story begins here, and it is very familiar to us. What? The beginning of the story here, it takes us to recall our olden days when our grannies, that is grandmas and the old people, used to narrate a few interesting stories of moral or folk stories in order to make us convince, in order to make us happy, feel happy, and to take us towards the comfort. Once upon a time, an elephant made a friendship with a man. Yes. One day, a heavy thunderstorm broke out. The elephant went to his friend, who had a little hut at the edge of the forest, and said to him, "My dear good man, will you please let me put my trunk inside your hut to keep it out of this torrential rain?" See how beautifully Kenyatta started this story here. There was an elephant, and it wished to make a friendship between a man in the same jungle, forest. And it is the season of rain, and there was a heavy thunderstorm. And meanwhile, to protect from this heavy rainfall, the elephant goes to the man, as he is already a very good friend of the man, and he requests some place in his hut in order to get protected from this thunder storm or hail storm here. And see the language of elephant that it uses here. In order to make this man agree, feel sad, feel humane, kind towards elephant, and permit the elephant to take rest in his hut. And you can imagine that the man of a hut of a man. So they think of the size of the hut, only a man in the hut, how much space that it may be in, and how much space that is required to fit to the elephant here, you can imagine. So when it uses the polite words in this manner, my dear good man, will you please let me put my trunk inside your hut to keep it out of this torrential rain. Then the man, seeing what situation his friend was in, replied, my dear good elephant, my hut is very small, but there is room for your trunk and myself. Please put your trunk in gently. See, he is a very kind-hearted man, and they are not aware of the treaties, the commissions and the laws that were made by Europeans here. European, that is elephant here. See how it came to man and how it gets fulfilled its wish to occupy the hut of man here. Man, exactly, he says that it is not possible to provide space to all of your body, Mr. Elephant. You can only put your trunk inside the hut, because the space is there only for your trunk and myself. So you can put your trunk into it. That is what the man permitted the elephant to do on that hailstorm or thunderstorm. Then the man, seeing what situation his friend was in, so he replied and he permitted the elephant to put its trunk inside the hut. And he also says that please put your trunk in gently, because he is strong, elephant. Okay, gently. If he puts his trunk roughly or with hardness, then there may be the hut of man may collapse. Isn't it? So that is why he says so. Then the elephant thanked his friend, saying, you have done me a good deed, and one day I shall return your kindness. See how beautiful, how humane in the language the elephant is here. See, my dear friend, you have helped me a lot. You are a very good friend of mine. And the way it expresses the gratitude to man here is, you have done me a good deed, and one day I shall return your kindness. Okay, that is what he says. ಬಹಳ ಸಹಾಯ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟಿದೆಯಾ ನೀನು ನನ್ನ ಇಂತಹ ಒಂದು ಕಠಿಣ ಸಮಯದಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಒಂದಲ್ಲ ಒಂದು ದಿನ ಅದನ್ನು ನಿನಗೆ ವಾಪಸ್ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು, ತಿರುಗಿಸಿ ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ ನಿನಗೆ ಸಹಾಯ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು ಕಷ್ಟ ಕಾಲದಲ್ಲಿ, ಮುಂದೆ ಜೀವನದಲ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ ಒಂದು ಪ್ರಾಮಿಸನ್ನು ಈ ಎಲಿಫೆಂಟ್ ಮನುಷ್ಯನಿಗೆ ಮಾಡುತ್ತೆ. ದೆನ್ ಬಟ್ ವಾಟ್ ಫಾಲೋ? As soon as the elephant put his trunk inside the hut, slowly he pushed his head inside and finally flung the man out in the rain, and then lay down comfortably inside his friend's hut, saying, my dear good friend, your skin is harder than mine, and as there is not enough room for both of us, you can afford to remain in the rain while I am protecting my delicate skin from the hailstorm. See how intelligent he is now, how cunning he is, how inhuman he is now at this stage. ಪಾಪ ಹೋಗ್ಲಿ, ಮಳೆಯಿಂದ ಸುಧಾರಿಸ್ಕೊಳ್ಳಿ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಜಾಗ ಕೊಟ್ಟರೆ, ಸೊ ಅವನನ್ನೇ ಹೊರಗೆ ತಳ್ಳಿಬಿಟ್ಟು ತಾನು ಅವನ ಎಲ್ಲ ಜಾಗ ಗುಡಿಸಲಿನಲ್ಲಿ ಎಲ್ಲ ಜಾಗವನ್ನು ಕಬಳಿಸಿ ತಾನು ಆರಾಮವಾಗಿದ್ದು ಅವನನ್ನು ಹೊರಗೆ ಹಾಕ್ಬಿಡ್ತಲ್ಲ ಈ ಮಳೆಯ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ. ಸೊ ಇದೆಂಥ ನ್ಯಾಯ? ಸೊ ವಾಟ್ ಕೈಂಡ್ ಆಫ್ ಜಸ್ಟಿಸ್ ದಟ್ ವಿ ಸಿ ವಿತ್ ದ ಎಲಿಫೆಂಟ್? ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಅಬ್ಸರ್ವ್ ದ ವರ್ಡ್ಸ್ used by elephant here. How decent it is here. How polite it is in this. Okay. So this is the nature of the elephant, that is the animals as Canada represents, and it is the very ultimate nature of the Europeans, the exploiters, and the victim here is the innocent man, that is the uneducated, illiterate, unaware of the laws, treaties and the commissions of these Europeans, became victim finally here. They don't know and they can't oppose, go against this. Why? Because he has already signed the treaty that you have to bear, that you have to give the place to protect your friends, neighbors, and it is his duty. Yes. And then my dear good friend, your skin is harder than mine, and as there is not enough room for both of us, you can afford to remain in the rain while I am protecting my delicate skin from the hailstorm. Very delicate skin, the elephant skin. Very smooth, very smooth. So this is what the elephant wants man to understand. And here it is, it feels it's higher power, as it is educated, as it has many arms and ammunitions, and powerful. And man, by seeing the very position in that way, he feels nervous, fright, fear of these animals of the jungle, that is Europeans in reality. And further, the man, seeing what his friend had done to him, started to grumble. The animals in the nearby forest heard the noise and came to see what was the matter. All stood around listening to the heated argument between the man and his friend, that is elephant. In this turmoil, the lion came along roaring and said in a loud voice, "Don't you all know that I am the king of the jungle? How dare anyone disturb the peace of my kingdom?" Look at the very different situation that we have here. How finely the lion came to this particular incident. And as usual, when the elephant occupies the complete hut of man by throwing him out of his own hut, so usually he will feel very bad, and also there may be anger, and he started grumbling. He wanted to go against the deed of elephant here. So then, as there was a grumbling and as there was a noise, a discussion quarrel between elephant and man, so the sound was very much, and this noise heard to the people and all the animals around. They gathered there, and finally, as there is a poor man, this one, and the argument was very heated between the man and the elephant. So the man was very much angry on the elephant here, and when this quarrel was happening, there was a sound and made by the animals around them, and as a result, there is an entry of the king of the jungle here, so that is lion. See how it comes to this place here. In this turmoil, the lion came along roaring. See, Halasittu Kopa, the great loss has done to his people, and it has lost much. ಅನ್ನೋಮಟ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಏನೋ ಒಂದು a great injustice was happened ಅಥವಾ a fight is going on and which disturbs the peace of the kingdom ಅನ್ನೋ ಮಟ್ಟಕ್ಕೆ ಆವಾಜ್ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಗರ್ಜಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಬರುತ್ತೆ and ಜೋರಾಗಿ in a loud voice it utters, "Don't you know all that I am the king of the jungle? How dare anyone disturb the peace of my kingdom?" So the lion roars here. And dear students, I want you to take a stop here, second page, the last paragraph but one here. So we will stop as for today. The time is up now. And this is the story of the gentleman of the jungle here by Jomo Kenyatta. And how do you feel? In what way you can respond? If you are in the place of man here, so how would you react to the deed of elephant? How it disturbs the peacefulness of the man, and how it understands and disturbs the peaceful mind of the man here. And how do you feel? So can you leave a man who betrays us, who gives us pain without a mistake of us? So can you leave it out? And what kind of character and what you express here? So we will continue tomorrow. I will stop here. Thank you. Have a great day.